He was a middle-aged, intellectual-looking anesthesiologist in scrubs, post-call, with a 5 o'clock shadow, and stylish, round, metal-rimmed glasses. I'll never forget when he stood up. He asked a question that I'm sure others in the audience were thinking, but wouldn't have dared said out loud. It was August of 2009, and 150 anesthesiologists, surgeons, techs, nurses, pharmacists, and caregivers were actually in the room. Not caregivers, actually, patient care coordinators were in the room. And it was our third communication/leadership session that we were doing as part of this year-long training to unravel 20 years of an entrenched operating room culture. So, plagued with dysfunction, the dysfunctional power and hierarchy, passive aggressiveness, and gossip. You know what I realized? Let me grab my clicker. That's not going to work. Give me a second, guys. Plagued with passive aggressiveness, power and hierarchy, and gossip, their interactions with one another had disintegrated into union complaints, passive aggressiveness, staff attrition, inefficiencies, but probably most importantly, some recent patient errors. So this is usually when it gets the attention of leadership. Like, before that, it's not actually something they're willing to deal with, and then suddenly when the state mandates that something must be done, everyone says, like, how are we going to solve that? So we, as a team, I was a consultant at the time, but I had worked there. We, as a team, had a disease state that needed healing, and the stakes couldn't have been higher. So compared to other ORs in the region, we ranked dead last, right? Not only in efficiencies, but as you can imagine, in employee morale as well. So research shows that psychological trust is one of the basic and most important building blocks to creating high-functioning teams. So in my own experience, I'd say, like of transforming corporate and medical cultures, I'd say it's the essential building block, and it's a key determinant of whether or not people are actually willing to enter into what I call healthy conflict with one another. So let's go back to the anesthesiologist's question, right? So one of the rules that I say when I'm working with a team is, I have an agenda, but that agenda is not as important as your agenda. So if something surfaces, there's mics always around the room, and they're allowed to interrupt me with a question. He leaned into the microphone, and he said, Dr. Sangwan, these communication tools that you're teaching us, they're nice and all. I'm just wondering how they're going to make the staff around here more competent. So as the shock, it's like a shock wave of his question moved through the room, what I started seeing was raised, elevated eyebrows. I saw people looking at one another and doubling the size of the whites in their eyes. What was happening for me on stage was some heart racing and like a sinking feeling in my stomach. And as a leader or as a facilitator, right, when something unexpected happens, the big deal is that you have double vision, really. Actually, I'd call it triple vision. I'd say that I'm aware of what's happening for me, while I am connected to the person asking that question, while I simultaneously am aware of what's happening in the room. Yes? It was one of those moments. And so, as one of the first communication tools that I want to make sure you walk away with is, whether it's around the dinner table or whether it's in the operating room or whether it's with a patient, when someone says surprises you, or whether you're the patient with the doctor, if someone says surprises you, rather than shutting down, which is our biological protection, it's in that very moment that you want to do what I call hitting your pause button. Who knew, right? Humans have pause buttons. DVD players, videos, music has pause buttons, but we do too. And so in that moment, I took a very deep breath and I asked a clarifying question. So what I said is, what do you mean by that? Now, he was very quick to answer. You are not going to believe it, Dr. Sangwan, when I say, get me 2 units of blood stat in the operating room. 15, 20 minutes later, there is no blood in that operating room. That is not just a team building, communication skills thing. That is egregious patient care and a medical error waiting to happen. So I started to understand, and that's what the clarifying question does. I started to understand what was at the root of what he was asking, right, and his frustration. This was clearly connected to missed expectations and broken trust on teams, right? And this clearly had been going on for a little while. So missed expectations and broken trust, right? So one of the first things that came to me was knowing how to make clear agreements is at the basis of this. So I asked him, would you be willing to come to the front of this room and help me teach this room about agreements? He proudly walked right up to the front of the room. He was on it. So I would like someone from the audience who would be willing to stand in for that anesthesiologist so I could teach this room and anyone viewing about how we make agreements. Who's a brave soul that would be willing to do that? Anyone? Yeah? Come on up. Come on up. Round of applause. There was one hand that went up. Round of applause. You are? Hannah.
Occupational therapist.
And will you grab that mic? Thank you. If I was a really good host, I would have had that in my hand.
Okay.
Thank you, Hannah. So what we're going to do together is we're going to do what the anesthesiologist and I did for the operating room team. Cool?
Sure.
Look, she has no idea what that means. Well, let me tell you what you're going to do. 5 times, you're going to ask me the same question, okay? And 5 times, I'm going to give you a different answer. And once I give you an answer, we're going to turn to the audience and we're going to ask them if we have an agreement. Okay? All right, so let me back up a little bit because there's something else I wanted to tell you. So, agreements, right? We make them all the time. Yes, the anesthesiologist was trying to make one with people in the OR, but we make agreements all the time. And I'm not talking about the formal ones that lawyers have to verify and that are enforced by law. I'm talking about informal, everyday plans, negotiations, ways we talk to one another, like making the agreement of who's going to pay the check at dinner, wondering if, hey, can I borrow your car tonight? All the way down to looking at someone that we really care about and saying, are we exclusive? These are all agreements, right? And they happen in our everyday life. So just as they happen in the operating room, I also want you to be thinking about how they also happen in your life. So, so now the interesting thing is anyone who's been dissed on a date, pay attention to the 5 levels of agreement because you're going to have the answer why someone ditched you, okay? Right here. And it'll never happen again. All right, so here we go. The 5 levels of agreement. All right, that was us in the OR. So how about going to a movie? That's easy. Yeah? Like making an agreement to go to a movie. Let's take this out of the realm of the anesthesiologist, and afterwards I'll come back to his experience, okay? What movie do you want to see? What's out? Anything that you guys want to shout out some movies?
Moana.
What is it?
I said Moana.
Okay, do you want to see that?
Yes.
Okay, good answer, by the way. All right, so you're going to say, Neha, hey Neha, do you want to go see Moana this weekend with me? Did I say it right?
Yes.
Okay, great. And you're going to say that same thing 5 times, right? One at a time. I'm going to respond. We're going to look at the audience and see if we have an agreement.
Neha, do you want to go see Moana with me?
Oh, Moana? I didn't even know it was out yet. Are we going to the movies? No. What did I just do in response to her asking me a question? Yeah, I pretty much like acknowledged that she spoke. Wasn't that nice of me? Any of you that have been in a hospital team or such know that that is like a step forward. I acknowledge that she spoke. Here we go. All right, level 2 agreement. Here we go.
Neha, do you want to go see Moana with me?
I have been dying to see it ever since we saw the trailer last fall. Are we going to the movies? I hear maybe, no, I hear. All right, we're not going to the movies yet. What did I do that was different than the first time where I just acknowledged that you spoke?
You were in agreement that it was something you maybe would be interested in doing.
I showed level 2, positive interest, right? All right, level 3 agreement. Here we go.
Neha, do you want to go see Moana with me?
Yes, I definitely want to go. And I put an extension on my taxes, so I just need to make sure that my information gets to my accountant before we go, and as long as it does, we're on. Are we going?
No.
Anyone know level 3 agreements? It's called a qualified yes. I call it a California yes. Because there's so many good things going on everywhere. Like, who wants to commit to that one thing, right? So it's the idea in a personal setting, when you say, hey, are you coming to my holiday party? And someone says, I'm going to go by Joe's, and then we're going to swing by Sarah's, and then we're going to drop by. They're not coming to your party. And this is the type of answer that is most likely the person's going to flake on you. And I'll tell you why. Genuinely, their taxes might not be, the information might not be in. And so they have this way that they have just told you, they said, yes, I want to go. And so depending on how badly you want that to happen is what you're going to hear and whether you're going to pay attention to everything that came next. You understand what I'm saying? Right? So pay attention to that. Awesome. Level 4 agreement. Here we go.
Neha, do you want to go see Moana with me?
Yes. Are we going? Yes, I see some, I'm not sure. Some people didn't answer. What I just gave her was a very, very clear yes. Except she's a busy woman, I'm a busy woman. Guess what? I'm going to run into her at the hospital the next week and say like, oh, my family stopped by and then we got carried away with the kids and it didn't happen. And you're going to say, yeah, too, we should do it. You see it? All right, level 5. Here we go. Level 5 agreements.
Neha, do you want to go see Moana with me?
Yes, I would love to. You know what? I don't have to take care of the kids on Saturday matinee, so what about if we went to the Embarcadero Theater at 1 o'clock?
Perfect.
Yeah, are we going to the movies? Yes. Now is the first time we're going to the movies, and I just want to give her such a round of applause right now for how patiently she asked me that question over and over again. You're not quite done yet, because remember, you're the anesthesiologist.
Right.
Remember? Okay, so this was, whenever I teach a new tool, I always teach it outside of that realm so it's not as emotional, and then I bring it back into that realm. So here we go. So I turned to him and I said, when you say, get me 2 units of blood stat, look at the levels of agreement and tell me, which one did you have?
Nothing.
So I just want to get this right? You had a level 0 agreement, right? And it feels like, in a very real way, right, that this room is what's not cooperating, right? Does it feel that way?
Yes.
And I have to say, his humility and his generosity to learn, he turned to everybody and apologized. It was amazing. So I think of it, those are the moments that actually make the work I do meaningful, right? Because you just watch transformation happen in front of your eyes. So what I want to do is, I have this in a book that I wrote, and this is your thank you for being courageous in the world, for showing up and not knowing and risking anyway so other people can learn. Round of applause. Yeah. All right, you didn't think I'd stop at just her, did you? So I'd like all of you to take a moment to kind of focus to the front. You can rest your eyes wherever you'd like to, but whatever number comes to you, I'm going to ask you 3 questions. whatever number comes to you, I want you to trust the first number that comes to you, okay? So I didn't really get a good agreement with you there because you didn't say okay back. Like, I'm with it on the level of agreement I just got. But if you'd like to participate, please do this. So the first question is, what level of agreement do you typically expect from others? Let a number come to you. You might want to jot it down if you're interested in that. The second question, what level of agreement do you typically give to others? And does it change when you're at home or at work? And lastly, probably most importantly, what level of agreement do you make and keep with yourself? I want you to take 1 minute and tell the person next to you if you noticed any differences in those three, and literally 1 minute, because that's what I've got. Okay, 1 minute. Can you tell the person next to you what surprised you? Did anything surprise you with those questions? All right, can I have your attention back up to the front of the room? So once you understand agreements, was that interesting? Yeah? So those of you that are educators in the room, the way that I tend to do this is there's a way that I tell a story either about me or about something unrelated. Then I bring someone up and bring it one step closer to a real example, and then I move it to the audience. So that's kind of how I do the self-awareness and transformation. So once you understand agreements, right, the next question becomes, how do you navigate an interaction with someone else when there's differing levels of agreement? Yes? It becomes a little more complicated. So because I have a limited time with you right now, if you pull out your cell phones right now, you get 3 free gifts. Let me tell you what they are if you're interested. You would text MEDX patient or MEDX provider. I'm sorry, I know there's so much bigger of an audience in the sense of like educators and administrators and so many others. My social media woman was like, you get 2. When I tried to do more, but either you text MEDX patient or MEDX provider to that number, and what you get is a Facebook Live event where I'm going to spend an hour with the providers and an hour with patients. I'm actually happy to do 2 hours with both of all of you together if you think it would be relevant. So you can be on both if you'd like to. There's a 5 levels of agreement PDF where I give you tips on each of those 5 levels and how to make sure you don't get caught there. And the last one is a live client video of me live working with a client who, as she realizes the impact that she is undermining her own relationships that she's complaining about, and then the solution of how she figures out how to change that. So that's what the offerings are. And so now, really what I want to say is to healthcare providers, educators, students, whoever you are in the room, agreements matter. They matter in your everyday lives, in your personal lives and satisfaction, and they really matter on how we interact together and whether or not together we will heal, because they're the foundational building blocks of trust. How we make agreements and whether we fulfill those agreements or not is one of the major building blocks. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your attention. And I, of course, would be happy to answer questions outside on a break or whatever. Thank you.